Rain hammered the streets of Atlanta like the city had done something to deserve a punishment. Street lamps bled orange halos through the downpour, and car tires hissed across blacktop rivers that formed in the gutters. Most people had hurried inside hours ago, closing their doors against the storm. But one man remained behind the wheel, guiding his old black Chevy Impala down a side street where puddles turned into lakes. His name was Marcus Green, 32 years old, a mechanic. By trade, though lately his hands carried more grease than money. He worked at Carter's Auto down off Peachtree, putting in long hours just to keep rent paid on his one-bedroom apartment and send a little something to his mama back home in Macon. He was the type of man who didn't complain much. He'd seen enough in his life, poverty, broken promises, friends locked up or worse, to know that complaining never fixed a thing. You worked, you prayed, and you tried to keep your soul intact. That's how Marcus lived. But that night, the rain wore on him. He had just finished a 12-hour shift. His shirt still smelled like motor oil, and his hands, though washed, carried faint black stains that never seemed to leave. He wanted nothing more than to crawl into bed, kick off his boots, and forget the world until morning. Yet, as fate often does, it had other plans. He almost didn't see her at first. Just a shadow moving along the sidewalk near the bus stop, hunched beneath a soaked hoodie. She carried no umbrella, no bag, nothing but herself, trudging through water up to her ankles. Marcus slowed the car instinctively. Something about the way she moved made his chest tighten. It wasn't just that she was wet, it was that she looked beaten. Shoulders slumped, steps dragging. Like someone who had nowhere left to go. Marcus eased the Chevy to the curb and rolled the window down a crack. Rain lashed in through the opening, cold and relentless. "You good, miss?" he called out. His voice carried a natural bass that could sound intimidating if you didn't know him, but right now it was softened by concern. The woman stopped walking. Slowly, she lifted her head, and Marcus saw her face under the streetlight. She was young, late 20s maybe. Her skin, a warm brown, glistened from the rain, and her eyes, wide and uncertain, locked onto his with a mix of fear and desperation. She didn't answer right away. "I'm fine," she said finally, though her voice cracked. Marcus looked around. The bus stop was deserted, no cars in sight. He knew damn well no bus was coming at this hour in this weather. "Don't look fine," he said. "Where you headed?" She hesitated. Her lips trembled, partly from cold, partly from something deeper. "Downtown." Marcus frowned. "On foot, in this storm?" She shifted her weight, glanced down the road as if hoping salvation would appear. Then she pulled her hoodie tighter and started walking again. Something inside Marcus rebelled. He couldn't just drive off. He wasn't raised that way. His mama always told him, "You don't turn your back when God puts someone in your path." He pulled the car forward slowly, keeping pace with her. "Look, I don't mean no harm," he said, his voice steady. "But it's raining cats and dogs out here. You gon' catch pneumonia. Let me give you a ride." She stopped again. Rain poured down her face, her hair plastered to her cheeks. He could see the battle in her eyes, trust versus survival. "You some kind of serial killer?" she asked flatly, her voice thin but edged with defiance. Marcus almost laughed, almost. "Nah, ma'am, just a tired man who don't like seeing people suffer. Name's Marcus. Work over at Carter's Auto. Ask anybody around, they'll tell you I'm solid." The woman studied him for another long second. Then, as if her body finally gave up fighting the storm, she exhaled and walked to the passenger side. When she opened the door, the smell of rain rushed in with her. She climbed in slowly, clutching the hoodie around her, dripping onto the worn leather seat. "Seatbelt," Marcus said gently, pulling away from the curb. She clicked it without a word. For a while, the only sound was the storm and the rhythmic squeak of old windshield wipers struggling against the torrent. Marcus didn't push. He knew people opened up when they were ready, After a few blocks, he asked, "What's your name?" She stared out the window, raindrops chasing each other down the glass. "Alicia," she whispered. "Alicia," Marcus repeated, letting the name settle. "Pretty name." She didn't respond. Marcus glanced at her. Her clothes were soaked, clean through. Beneath the hoodie, he could see the outline of a thin t-shirt clinging to her frame. She shivered, rubbing her arms. He reached into the back seat, grabbed an old flannel jacket, and held it out. "Here, it's dry, I promise." For the first time, she looked directly at him. Her eyes, dark, guarded, searched his face like she was trying to read his soul. Then, with a small nod, she took the jacket and slipped it on. It swallowed her whole, but he noticed how she hugged it tight, like it was armor. "Thanks," she murmured. "No problem." Silence again. Rain softened to a steadier rhythm now, though still relentless. Marcus turned down a quieter street to avoid traffic lights. "You hungry?" he asked suddenly. Alicia hesitated. Her lips parted, then closed. Finally she said, "A little." Marcus smiled faintly. He knew what that meant. He'd grown up around people who said a little when they hadn't eaten all day. He steered the Chevy toward a 24-hour diner he knew on the edge of town. They pulled into the parking lot, neon lights flickering against the wet pavement. Marcus cut the engine and looked at her. "Come on. Coffee's on me. Best way to warm up." Alicia's hands gripped the jacket. "I don't got money." "Didn't ask if you did," Marcus said softly. "Come on." After a moment's hesitation, she followed him inside. The diner smelled of bacon grease and burnt coffee, the kind of place where truckers lingered over pie at 2 a.m. A jukebox in the corner hummed softly, and a tired waitress with too much eyeliner showed them to a booth. Marcus slid in first. Alicia sat across from him, shrinking into the corner like she wanted to disappear. The waitress poured 2 coffees without asking and handed them menus. Marcus ordered pancakes and bacon for himself, then looked at Alicia. "You?" She shook her head. "I'm okay." Marcus gave her a look. "Pick something." Alicia's eyes darted to the menu, then back to him. Finally, in a small voice, she said, "Grilled cheese. Fries, maybe." The waitress scribbled it down and left dot as the rain tapped against the windows. Marcus leaned back, studying her. Up close, she looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, lips chapped, cheeks hollow. But there was beauty there too, undeniable, like light trapped beneath the rubble of a collapsed building. "You from around here?" he asked. Alicia hesitated, then shook her head. "Used to be. Haven't been back long." "Family?" "Here." Her jaw tightened. "No." Marcus didn't push. He just sipped his coffee, letting the silence breathe. When the food came, Alicia stared at the plate like it was treasure. She picked up half the sandwich, took a tentative bite, and Marcus swore he saw her whole body ease for the first time since he'd met her. "Good?" he asked. She nodded, chewing quickly, almost desperately, before forcing herself to slow down. "Yeah," she whispered. Marcus smiled, though his heart ached. He recognized hunger when he saw it. Not just for food, but for safety, for kindness, for something solid to hold on to. For the next half hour, they ate in relative quiet. Marcus told a story about a customer at the shop who tried to fix his own engine with duct tape. Man, had the thing wrapped up like a Christmas present. And, for the first time, Alicia actually laughed. It was small, fragile, but it was real. As they finished, Marcus glanced at the clock. Past midnight. He knew he couldn't just drop her off on the street. Not with the storm still raging. "You got somewhere to go tonight?" he asked carefully. Alicia's smile faded. She looked down at her empty plate, fingers fiddling with the crusts she'd left behind. "No." Marcus exhaled slowly. He rubbed a hand over his beard, thinking. Bringing a stranger home wasn't smart. But leaving her out there wasn't something his conscience could handle. "You can crash on my couch," he said finally. Just for tonight. Nothing funny, I promise. I just can't leave you out there. Her eyes shot up to his. Why? Marcus blinked. Why what? Why would you care? She whispered. There was real pain in her voice, like the question wasn't about him, but about life itself. Marcus held her gaze. 'Cause I know what it's like to feel invisible. And I ain't about to let that happen to you. The silence that followed was heavy. Alicia's eyes glistened, not from rain this time. She looked away quickly, wiping at her cheek. Finally, she nodded. Okay. Marcus paid the bill, and they stepped back into the storm. He opened the passenger door for her, and as she slid into the Chevy, he knew deep down this night had just changed everything. What neither of them realized was that the ride he offered wasn't just through the rain. It was toward a future neither had dared to imagine. The ride back to Marcus's apartment was quiet, except for the storm drumming against the roof. Alicia sat curled into the flannel jacket like it was the only safe place she had left. Her eyes stayed fixed on the window, watching rain blur the world into streaks of silver. Marcus glanced at her once in a while, wondering what kind of story lay behind that silence. He didn't press. Some truths needed to crawl out in their own time. When he pulled into the cracked parking lot of his apartment complex, the storm seemed louder, bouncing off the corrugated metal roofs of old carports. The Chevy groaned to a stop in his usual spot. Marcus killed the engine, leaving them in the thick quiet of rain and night. "This is me," he said softly. Alicia shifted, hesitant. Her eyes flicked from the dimly lit building to him. "You? Sure about this?" Marcus nodded. "Yeah, come on." Couch is old, but it's dry. They climbed out. Rain soaked them instantly as they ran across the lot, Marcus unlocking the door with practiced speed. The moment they stepped inside, warmth wrapped around them, the faint smell of motor oil lingering beneath laundry detergent, the hum of a small box fan in the corner. The apartment was modest. One bedroom, clean but worn, the kind of place that carried the weight of hard-earned paychecks. The living room had a sagging couch, a thrift store coffee table with a missing leg propped on a stack of books, and a TV that hummed faint static when turned on. "Not much," Marcus said, tossing his keys into a bowl. "But it's home." Alicia stood near the door, dripping, unsure whether to move. She looked fragile in the overhead light hair plastered, hoodie clinging, her shoes leaving small puddles on the linoleum. "Bathroom's that way," Marcus pointed down a short hall. "Got some clean towels in the cabinet. You can shower. Change into something dry. I'll grab you some clothes." Her eyes flickered with something fear, gratitude, maybe both. She nodded, clutching the jacket tighter. Marcus dug through his dresser, found a pair of sweats and a t-shirt. They'd be big on her, but at least dry. He knocked on the bathroom door, left the clothes on the counter, and returned to the living room. As water rushed through pipes, Marcus sank onto the couch, rubbing his temples. He had no idea what he was doing. A stranger, a woman who clearly carried heavy burdens, was now in his space. Every rational thought told him this was risky. But his gut, the same gut that had kept him alive this long, told him he'd done right. After a while, the water stopped. A few minutes later, Alicia emerged, swallowed in his clothes, sleeves hanging past her hands. Her hair, damp but combed back, framed her face differently. Without the hoodie's shadow, he saw her more clearly. Not just the beauty she carried, but the exhaustion carved into her features. She glanced at him cautiously. "Thanks. Anytime," he said. He motioned to the couch. "This'll be your bed tonight. I'll grab a blanket." He brought out a quilt his grandmother had made years ago, edges frayed, but still warm. Alicia took it gently, like she was holding something sacred. "You need anything else?" he asked. She shook her head. "No, this is more than I expected." Marcus nodded. "All right, I'll be in the bedroom. Holler if you need something." He started to walk away, but her voice stopped him. "Marcus?" "Yeah?" Her eyes lifted to his, and for the first time, her guard lowered just a little. "Why are you being so kind?" The question hit him deep. He thought of his mama, of nights she'd go without food so he could eat, of neighbors who slipped $5 bills into their mailbox when times got rough. He thought of the times he'd wished someone would show him mercy when he was younger and lost. "Because somebody once was kind to me when I didn't deserve it," he said finally. "Guess I'm just paying it forward." For a moment, Alicia didn't breathe. Then she whispered, "Good night." "Good night, Alicia." Morning came soft and gray. The storm finally reduced to a drizzle. Marcus brewed coffee in the kitchen, the aroma filling the apartment. He moved quietly, not wanting to wake her, but when he glanced toward the couch, Alicia was already sitting up, quilt wrapped around her shoulders. "Sleep okay?" He asked. She nodded, though her eyes told a different story, dark, restless. He poured her a mug and set it on the table. She cupped it like it was the only warmth in the world. "I should go," she said suddenly, though her voice wavered. Marcus leaned against the counter. "Go where?" Silence. She sipped the coffee, avoiding his gaze. "Alicia," he said gently, "you don't have to tell me everything. But walking back out there with nothing, that don't sound like a plan." Her jaw tightened. "I'll figure it out." He studied her. There was steel beneath her fragility, a stubbornness forged by survival. But there was also fear, a fear she tried hard to bury. "Look," he said, scratching his beard, "I ain't here to control you. But if you need time, you can stay a couple days. Couch is yours till you get on your feet." Her eyes snapped up, startled. "Why?" "'Cause I know what it's like to not have nowhere to land," he replied simply. "Everybody needs a place to breathe." She stared at him, her lips pressed tight. Finally she nodded once, sharply, as if the word okay was too heavy to say out loud. Over the next few days, an unspoken rhythm formed. Marcus went to work early, leaving her coffee and sometimes a note, just a line or two. "Help yourself to the cereal, or microwave acts funny, gotta slam the door twice." When he returned, he found the place tidier than he'd left it. Dishes washed, couch cushions fluffed. Once, he even found dinner on the stove, simple spaghetti. But it felt like a feast. Alicia spoke little, but bit by bit, pieces of her past surfaced. One evening, as they sat watching an old movie rerun, she whispered, "I used to live in Decatur. Had an apartment, a job, all that." Marcus turned down the volume, listening. "Then I met him," she said bitterly. "Seemed like a good man, charming, sweet. 6 months in, everything changed. He had a temper. You never knew what would set him off." Her fingers tightened around the quilt. Marcus's chest burned, but he kept quiet, letting her continue. "I stayed too long. When I finally left, I had nothing. He drained my account, ruined my credit. I thought I could rebuild, but one thing led to another. Lost the apartment. Lost the job. Been bouncing around since." Marcus clenched his jaw, fighting back anger that wasn't his to unleash. "You don't deserve that, Alicia." She gave a hollow laugh. "Life doesn't care what you deserve." "Maybe," Marcus sighed quietly, "but I care." Her eyes flickered to him, shimmering with something unspoken. Gratitude, fear, hope. But storms don't end at sunrise. One Saturday evening, Marcus came home to find Alicia pacing the living room, phone clutched in her hand. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. "What's wrong?" he asked, setting down his jacket. She looked at him with wide, panicked eyes. "He found me." Marcus's stomach dropped. "Who?" "My ex. I don't know how, but he called. Said he knows I'm back in Atlanta. He's looking for me." Marcus stepped closer, steady but fierce. "Did you answer?" She shook her head. "No, but he left a voicemail. Said I can't hide forever." Rage boiled inside Marcus, but he kept his tone calm. "Listen to me. You're safe here. He ain't gonna touch you. Alicia's breathing was shallow, tears brimming. You don't know him. He doesn't let go. Marcus's hand curled into a fist, veins rising. Then he gon' have to go through me first. The words hung heavy in the room. Alicia's chest heaved, caught between fear and relief. For the first time, Marcus saw how fragile the line was between her survival and collapse. That night, as Alicia tried to sleep on the couch, Marcus lay awake in his bedroom, staring at the ceiling. He knew this was no longer just about kindness. He was in it now. Her storm was his too. And somewhere deep down, beneath all the fear and chaos, one truth burned brighter than the rest. He was falling for her, but falling for someone carrying. That much pain meant danger for her, for him, for them both. And the storm outside? It was only getting started. The weeks that followed turned Marcus's apartment into a sanctuary and a battlefield at the same time. On the outside, nothing much changed. He still clocked in at Carter's Auto, still came home with grease on his hands, still stopped at the diner now and then. But inside, the rhythm of his life had shifted. Alicia was there when he left, there when he returned. She tried to carry herself lightly, like a guest who didn't want to overstay. But Marcus noticed everything, the way she always folded the blanket neatly, the way she washed dishes as though scrubbing guilt away, the way she'd jump if footsteps passed too close to the door. He didn't push her, but he watched. And he listened. One night after a long day, he found her sitting on the balcony, knees drawn up under the quilt, staring at the city lights blinking in the distance. He stepped outside, leaned against the railing. "You're quiet tonight," he said. She didn't look at him. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop." Marcus frowned. "What you mean?" Her voice was a whisper. "Every time something good happens, it gets taken. Every time I start to feel safe, he finds me. I don't know how to live without looking over my shoulder." Marcus's heart ached. He wanted to promise her forever safety, to say he'd never let anything happen. But promises are fragile things. So he spoke what he could. "You don't gotta go through this alone anymore, Alicia. Not while I'm here." She finally turned her head, eyes glistening in the glow of the streetlight. For a moment, she let the wall fall, and Marcus felt the air shift between them, something heavier, something deeper than survival. But before he could say more, her phone buzzed on the table. One glance at the screen drained the color from her face. "Him. The X. The message was short, cruel, and sharp as glass. "I know where you are. You can't hide forever." Alicia's breath hitched. She shoved the phone into her hoodie pocket like it burned her. Marcus straightened, fury sparking hot in his chest. "Let me see that." She shook her head. "No, it'll just make it worse. He feeds on attention. He feeds on fear," Marcus growled. "And I ain't letting him eat yours." Alicia stood, her whole body trembling. "Marcus, you don't understand. He doesn't stop. When he wants something, he takes it." Marcus stepped closer, his voice low, firm. "Then he gon' learn quick he can't take from you no more." Her eyes searched his, torn between terror and hope. "You'll get hurt. I've been hurt before," Marcus said simply. "But I'm not watching you drown while I stand on dry land." The next few days were tense, like the city itself held its breath. Alicia hardly touched her food, her eyes flicking constantly to the door, the windows. Marcus tried to anchor her cooking, talking, cracking jokes at the TV, but he could feel her slipping into herself, closing off. Then Friday night came. Marcus was closing up the shop when his phone buzzed. A text from Alicia. "He's outside." Marcus froze, his hands tightening around the wrench he was holding. He dropped everything and sprinted to his car, tires screeching as he tore through the streets. By the time he pulled into the apartment lot, his chest was a drumbeat of fear and fury. The rain had started again, a light drizzle under the glow of the lampposts. And there he was, a man standing near the stairwell, broad-shouldered, tattooed arms exposed under a leather jacket. cigarette glowing in the dark. His eyes locked on. Marcus the second he stepped out of the car, Marcus's fists clenched. "You him?" the man smirked. "Depends who's asking." Before Marcus could answer, Alicia's voice cut through the night. "Stop!" She was on the balcony above, her face pale, eyes wide with terror. She rushed down the steps, quilt clutched. Around her shoulders like armor. "Alicia," the man drawled, tossing the cigarette aside. "Baby, you look good." Then a long time. "Don't call me that," she snapped, though her voice shook. Marcus stepped in front of her, body a shield. "You need to leave." The man tilted his head, eyes narrowing. "And you are? Somebody who won't let you lay a finger on her." The man chuckled, low and mean. "That so? You think she told you the truth? Think she didn't deserve?" "What she got?" Alicia flinched. Marcus's blood boiled. "Leave," Marcus repeated, his tone like steel. The man's smirk vanished. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "You don't get it. She's mine, always will be." Marcus didn't blink. Not tonight. Not ever again. For a tense moment, the lot fell silent except for the hiss of rain. The man's jaw worked, rage flashing across his face. He stepped forward like he might swing. Marcus braced, every muscle ready. But then, with a hiss of laughter, the man turned and walked away, muttering curses into the dark. Alicia collapsed against Marcus, trembling uncontrollably. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her close, feeling her heartbeat like a frantic bird against his chest. "He'll come back," she whispered. "He always comes back." Marcus pressed his cheek against her damp hair, jaw tight. "Then next time we'll be ready." That night, neither of them slept. Alicia sat curled on the couch, eyes darting at every sound. Marcus sat in the armchair. Across from her, baseball bat resting against his leg, watching over her. Around 3 a.m., her voice broke the silence. "Why are you doing this for me, Marcus? You don't owe me anything." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Maybe not. But I owe myself. I made a promise a long time ago. If I ever had the chance to do right by somebody who needed it, I'd take it. And Alicia," he swallowed, voice raw, "you deserve better than the life he gave you." Her eyes filled, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You don't even know me." Marcus shook his head. "I don't need to know every detail. I see. Enough. I see the way you fight just to keep breathing. I see the way you smile, even when you don't think you got a reason. I see you, Alicia, and I ain't letting you disappear." The silence after that was thick, heavy with things neither dared to say. But something shifted, something undeniable. By dawn, exhaustion pulled them under. Alicia fell asleep on the couch, Marcus in the chair. The storm outside had passed, but inside, the air was still electric, like the world was holding its breath. For what came next? Over the next week, Alicia's ex didn't show. No texts, no calls, but peace didn't come easy. Every knock at the door made her flinch. Every shadow in the lot made Marcus tense. One evening, Marcus found Alicia in the kitchen, staring at the quilt spread across the table, her hands traced. Its frayed edges like she was reading a story in the fabric. "This was your grandmother's?" she asked. "Yeah," Marcus said. "She made it when I was little, told me it'd keep me safe." Alicia's lips trembled. "Feels like it's been keeping me safe too." Marcus smiled softly. Maybe that's her way of watching over us. Alicia looked up at him then, and the air between them thickened. He stepped closer, hesitated, then brushed a damp curl from her face. She didn't pull away. Their eyes locked, unspoken words burning between them. For the first time, Alicia didn't look away. She leaned in, slowly, cautiously, like testing the strength of fragile glass, and when their lips finally met, it wasn't explosive. It was tender, trembling, filled with all the fear and hope of two people who had nearly lost everything. When they pulled apart, Alicia's forehead rested against his. "Marcus, I'm scared," So am I, he admitted. But maybe that's what makes it real. Her smile was small, broken, but real. And in that moment, Marcus knew he wasn't just fighting for her safety anymore. He was fighting for something far greater, for love, fragile and fierce, born from the rain. But storms don't surrender easy. And the worst was still waiting, because 2 nights later, as they returned from the diner, Marcus's apartment door stood wide open, and the quilt, the one thing Alicia clung to like a lifeline, was gone. The open door gaped like a wound. Rainwater pooled across the threshold, dripping from the cracked frame where the lock had been forced. Marcus froze, heart hammering, every nerve in his body on high alert. He pushed Alicia gently behind him before stepping inside. The apartment was ransacked. Couch cushions gutted, drawers dumped on the floor, his few valuables tossed aside. But the absence was louder than the chaos. The quilt, the one thing Alicia had clung to like it was her anchor, it was gone. Alicia's breath caught in her throat. "No," Marcus turned, his chest burning. "Stay here." But Alicia pushed past him, scanning the wreckage. Her face crumpled, tears streaking down her cheeks. He took it. Marcus pulled her into his arms as her body shook. "We'll get it back." She shook her head violently. "That quilt was all I had left of safety. He knows that. That's why he took it, to remind me he owns me." Marcus tightened his grip, fury scorching through his veins. "No, he doesn't own a damn thing. Not you, not that quilt, not your soul." The next day, Marcus called the police. But reports about stolen quilts and abusive exes didn't stir urgency. The officer shrugged, muttered about overworked caseloads, and promised to look into it. Alicia's hope dimmed further. Every sound made her flinch, every shadow stretched longer. Marcus couldn't stand it. He knew waiting would only drag her deeper into fear. So he took matters into his own hands. He asked around, called in favors from friends who knew the streets better than cops ever would. It didn't take long before one of them, a tow truck driver named Eddie, gave him a lead. "Your girl's ex been flashing some fancy quilt around," Eddie said over the phone, bragging about how he took back what's his. "He's holed up at that rundown motel off Boulevard. Room 12. Marcus's grip on the phone tightened. "Appreciate you, Eddie." He hung up, turned to find Alicia watching him from the couch. Her eyes searched his face, already knowing. "You found him," she whispered. Marcus nodded. Alicia stood slowly, trembling. "Marcus, don't go. He's dangerous." "I ain't letting him win," Marcus said firmly. Her voice cracked. "He'll hurt you. He'll hurt us." Marcus stepped closer, cupping her face gently. "Listen to me. I'm not going there to fight. I'm going there to end this. One way or another, he don't get to live in your shadow no more." Tears welled in her eyes. "I can't lose you too." "You won't." He pressed his forehead against hers. "Trust me." The motel reeked of stale beer and rot. Neon lights buzzed, flickering against cracked asphalt. Marcus parked the Chevy down the street, heart pounding as he walked the corridor. Rain had started. Again, light at first, then steady, drumming against the metal railing. Room 12. He knocked. The door creaked open, revealing the ex-smirk plastered on his face, cigarette dangling. And draped across the back of a chair behind him, like a trophy, was the quilt. "Well, look who it is," the man drawled. "Mechanic boy come to play hero." Marcus's fists clenched, but his voice was calm, cold. "Give it back." The man laughed. This is mine now, just like she is." Marcus stepped forward, muscles taut. "You don't own her. You never did. And that quilt? That ain't just fabric. That's her lifeline. You took it 'cause you weak. 'Cause the only way you feel strong is by breaking people." The man's smirk faltered, his jaw tightened. "Careful." "No," Marcus snapped, his voice rising. "You careful? You think fear makes you a man? Nah, love makes you a man. Protecting, building, standing tall when life tries to break you. That's strength, and you ain't got none." The man lunged, swinging a fist. Marcus ducked, years of shop work giving his reflexes speed. He shoved the man hard into the wall, the crack echoing through the thin motel halls. They grappled, fists flying, bodies slamming into furniture. Marcus wasn't trained, but he was fueled by something. Stronger rage, love, determination. Every blow was for Alicia, for every bruise, every scar this man had carved into her life. Finally, Marcus pinned him against the wall, forearm pressing into his throat. "You come near her again, and you'll wish this night never happened. You hear me?" The man wheezed, face purple. She should come back. She always does." "No," Marcus hissed, eyes burning. "Not this time." He shoved him to the ground, grabbed the quilt, and stormed out into the rain. Back at the apartment, Alicia sat frozen on the couch, wringing her hands. When the door opened, her heart leapt into her throat. Marcus stepped in, drenched, breathing hard, but whole. And in his arms folded, though torn at the edges, was the quilt. Alicia gasped, tears spilling instantly. She rushed to him, clutching the quilt, pressing her face into it, like it was life itself. Then she turned to Marcus, her hands trembling. As they touched his soaked shirt, "You're crazy," she whispered, sobbing. "You could have been killed." "But I wasn't," Marcus said softly, cupping her face. "I'm here, and so are you. And he ain't ever taking that from us again." Her body shook as she leaned into him, the quilt trapped between them like a shield, like a promise. Time passed. The police finally took Alicia's case seriously. After Marcus filed a restraining order, backed with evidence and witnesses, the ex was arrested weeks later on unrelated charges: illegal possession, assault. This time, he wasn't walking out so easy, and in that space of silence he left behind, something new began to grow. Marcus and Alicia rebuilt, slowly. Trust didn't come overnight. Alicia had scars that didn't fade easily. But Marcus never rushed her. He cooked for her, laughed with her, let her cry on his shoulder when the nightmares returned. One evening, months later, they sat on the same balcony where Alicia once whispered her fears. The quilt was draped across both their laps, frayed but whole. Alicia looked at him, eyes softer now, though still carrying shadows. "Do you ever think about that night? The rain, if you hadn't stopped?" Marcus smiled faintly, watching the city lights every damn day, and I thank God I did. 'Cause that night, I thought I was just giving a ride to a stranger. But really, he turned, brushing a curl from her face, I was meeting the love of my life. Her lips trembled. She leaned in, kissing him gently, deeply, as the rain whispered against the railing. For the first time, she wasn't looking over her shoulder. She was looking forward. And Marcus, tired mechanic, stubborn soul, knew that love, real love, didn't always start with fireworks. Sometimes it began in the rain, with a stranger, with a ride, with a choice to care when no one else would. The storm had nearly broken them, but it had also built them. And together, wrapped in that old quilt, they finally stepped into the light after the storm.